The former leader of opposition has bounced back after he was re-elected as a Agago North MP on the FDC ticket. Yet the political landscape remains steeped in uncertainty. What next for the 10th Parliament, which commences in May, and how will the political impasse be resolved? On the spot tonight is Professor Ogenga Latigo. Professor Ogenga Latigo, good evening and welcome to the show. You're on the spot tonight.
Thank you, Patrick, and good evening, viewers.
You are newly elected Member of Parliament for Agago North. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But many are saying Agago North was created to give you a soft landing.
Well, I don't know from where.
Because the other Agago was a big hill for you to climb.
Let me tell you.
That's why you were not in the last parliament.
No, let me tell you that the biggest regret of the Agago people was that a new constituency was created. Because, like I said one time here, the expectation was that in this election, they would actually reverse the mistakes that were made when I lost in that election.
I saw you in the last 5 years. You looked actually a happy man. You went to transform the world of agriculture in Agago, and I'm told you've done quite some good job. And if agriculture is supposed to be the key for this nation, why come back in this toxic politics of Uganda?
It's one of those things that I've done in life. I was in Makerere for 10 years and I left it. You could as well have argued that since you were so good as a teacher in Makerere, why did you leave to go into politics? Things have times. There was a time to teach and I finished it. And my students are some of the best researchers.
You probably have not made an impact in the area of agriculture?
No. If you went to Makerere, you went to any research station, they will tell you. First of all, my history as a lecturer and a researcher is a very distinguished history in Makerere. And my students whom I taught and trained are the best that you can find now. So I left that. I then came into Parliament. Of course, I would have wanted to serve more than the 10 years that I served. I would have wanted to serve more than the 5 years that I served as leader of opposition. But even then, I'm satisfied with what I did in the 10 years. I'm satisfied with what I did in the 5 years as leader of opposition. And when an opportunity came for me to go and really understand Ugandan agriculture, to practice what is my passion, I took that opportunity. And like you said, I enjoyed myself in those 5 years.
So you are back in Parliament on the FDC ticket.
Yes.
But the leader of FDC, Major General Mugisha Muntu, the presidential candidate, Dr. Kizza Besigye, and the entire political party establishment, the thinking is that they won the election and not the other way around. Do you share that?
They probably have the biggest picture of what transpired because I was steeped in my campaigns and my election. But you know,
you are a senior member of FDC.
I am no longer a senior member of FDC.
By virtue of the position you have held before,
historically,
you are a senior member. So you cannot say something is happening in the party establishment and you have got no idea.
Patrick, you will understand how I operate. I never go to do things that I'm not supposed to do. As leader in the party, when I was deputy president, I had the responsibility to keep in close touch with events in the party. When my term, the 10 years ended, I never sought any other elective position within the party. I left being an official of the party. I became an ordinary member. And my duty, humble duty, is to follow the leaders, and I follow them. Now, when you come to the issue of whether we won or lost the last election, the same argument can be applied to somebody who you know stole your things. And you know he stole your things. But because that person was not arrested by you on the spot, was not beaten by you while stealing, the right of that person vis-a-vis what you can do to the person even changes.
So in other words, for those who are claiming they won the election, they've got no evidence to show.
Not only that, it's not about...
They can't show it. They can't defend that statement. There's nothing to show for that.
Unless we cease...
Is that the view that Professor Latigo holds?
You see, unless we cease to be part of the national democratic and legal process. If we went to court ourselves, and the court ruled that President Museveni still won the way they ruled against Amama Mbabazi, if we are followers of the law, we will respect that. But it doesn't change the fact that what we believe to have happened would have happened. The fact and the law are two different things. The fact of the matter now is that Mbabazi went to court, and the court found that President Museveni was legitimately elected. Even if we know that we actually won in terms of the tally of votes. The same thing that...
so now, if your leadership, the presidential candidate, the party president, believe that they won the election, and you in your fewer numbers, you are in parliament, doesn't that put you in an awkward position?
Of course it does, because people expect me, like you were in this interview, expecting me to come up and say, yeah, we won. But I am a rational person. I'm a legislator.
Does that mean the other colleagues are irrational?
No.
Because you distinguish yourself as a rational person.
You see, there are two things. Saying that we won remains a claim until we can prove. But knowing that we won could be a fact. So without the basis of proof.
A senior party leader, a former leader of opposition, can only state that that's a claim. You cannot prove it.
It is not proven.
Okay.
This is a fact.
So is that your point of departure with your other colleagues in the FDC?
I don't know, because this is the first time I'm actually expressing myself on this.
Yeah, because we do that. Yes, this is why we have on the spot. That's why the sport is on you.
And I'm not shy about that, because that's how I deal with it. We went through an election that we knew an electoral commission that would probably shortchange us was responsible for. By just doing that, we accepted to face the consequence. It's very bitter that with all the support that the country demonstrated, and probably with all the votes that the country gave us, ultimately the person who was declared winner was different from our candidate. That is painful. But the reality is that he was not declared the winner, and that's a fact that we have to deal
So
with.
let me ask this, because you're a former leader of opposition.
Yes.
In this parliament, the 10th parliament,
yes,
are we going to have a leader of opposition?
Why not?
When your party leaders are saying they are the ones who won, won't that be an acceptance that they are in the opposition?
Look.
How can somebody who believes he won an election now go on to appoint or nominate a leader of opposition?
When we formed the FDC party, one of our first national, in fact, the very first national council meeting was in Stellenbosch in South Africa. And there we made it categorically clear that if you choose to be in FDC, you have to choose the path of democracy. If you go beyond it, you want to change things by violence, you cease to be a member of our party. Right now, the challenge that we face is how do we as a party and collectively deal with the reality that President Museveni was declared winner of this election, that we had enormous support behind our candidate, and that even when Amama Mbabazi went to court, the court still found that President Museveni had won. Those are realities that as leaders we must deal with.
So how do you think is your party president going to do this? To appoint a leader of opposition, yet he knows he's not supposed to be in the opposition. He's supposed to be at State House in Tebe.
Well, in fact, it's not our party president who is supposed to
your
be.
party.
You see,
that's
that's the complexity of
but,
things.
and if he chooses, or if he nominates, if he appoints a leader of opposition, won't that be an acceptance at the end of the day? That's your number two position.
My party president, General Mugisha Muntu, has the obligation to appoint the leader of opposition, even by virtue of our numbers.
And by extension, an acceptance.
Even by virtue of our numbers in parliament, we are a minority, but the largest minority. And so from that perspective...
But even the party president has said they won the election.
That is one thing. I told you that the fact on the ground is different from the fact that the law presents. The law provides that for anybody to be declared the winner of an election, the Electoral Commission must declare that person a winner. Where there's a contestation on that victory, you go to court and the Supreme Court will rule itself, which it did. These are facts that me, Latigo, I cannot change. I have to deal with it. And one of the ways of dealing with it is, first of all, to accept that that is a fact. And then secondly, to harmonize our position. So right now, I'm not in the core of leadership of the party.
But as party members, are you on the same strategy?
No,
are you ideologically united?
I have not participated. In fact, it is from tomorrow that we go in an orientation meeting to orient the new members of parliament of FDC. After that, we will be sworn in. Once I'm sworn in, as a member of parliament, I have an obligation to do whatever a member of parliament of FDC should do to further the interests of the party. Until that, I cannot do much other than have an opinion and express it in whatever forum that I find relevant.
Your party leaders have called for major demonstration at some point in the future. And normally when that happens, there's chaos in the city. Are we going to see Professor Latigo march along?
What they have called for is in their best wisdom. We will play whatever role we have to play. I don't want...
You seem to suggest, you've put a line, them and us, in their best interest, not in your best interest?
No, you have said our party leaders. They are the leaders, we are the followers. Right now, they are the leaders, we are the followers. But
is it in the interest of the party leaders or in the interest of the party?
Let me tell you, the day I become a member of NEC, the day we are asked as members of parliament, I will be very emphatic about my views on this election. If you want, for example, I know that whatever victory that the President Museveni considers to have, that is scored in this election is what they call Pyrrhic victory. It's a victory with too much damage. You just need to walk in town and see the attitude of people who only a few years ago had such high reverence for the president. Look away when his vehicle passes. You know, when once you lose the moral binding,
it's a constituency where he's not popular.
It doesn't matter.
Which happens to be a place where he resides.
It's not only here. It's not only here. You need to interact the international community. You need to interact with ordinary people. You need to interact even with members of his own party. Many people suddenly realize maybe time is not on our side. And when time is not on his side, that time is on our side, unless we don't want to take advantage.
How do you, and I know probably you've been asked this question before, how do you reconcile the fact that even before you went into the election, this man who has beaten you for the fourth time had about maybe 10 members of parliament unopposed, maybe 5 or 6 district chairpersons unopposed, and then he comes out with all 3/4 of members of parliament into that house. Really, that candidate, his election network and organization is massive. It's a juggernaut.
You see, we don't choose our time in life. That is what life has imposed on us, to be an opposition in an environment that is literally, you know, if you are not a very strong-willed person or an optimist, is an environment that presents no opportunity. But the challenge of history is that each one of us must do those things that further the interest of our country, that furthers the growth of democracy, that creates opportunity for us to serve this country. And that's what we do.
You have taken that line
yes.
to some people.
Yeah.
In my view, you have been mistaken that maybe you're not so much opposition enough. They may not have said exact words, but I've had those innuendos.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so it puts you, as who happens to be the voice, the moderate voice, in a very precarious situation. And there have been many voices like you, including the Honorable Wafulu Gutu, who was, by the way, in that chair a couple of weeks ago,
yeah.
and including Major General Mugisha Muntu.
Yeah.
But they're getting radicalized if you hear how they speak. Are you staying the same through and through? Because it appears your modus operandi is not working.
I'm just thick-skinned. Look, I think some time ago you read an article I wrote where I talked about political succession. Yes. Why can't we learn from trees? That tragically, probably for me, is my situation. I have such a deep understanding of some of these things from a very objective, impartial, scientific perspective, that I'm able to maintain my position, walk out of it, and see it dispassionately.
Unfortunately, that understanding is not infectious in a way around your people of the film. Your
no, I mean the important thing
is I wish
Patrick,
it could by osmosis go.
Patrick, what is important are not even the people around me, because the people around me are people who already share our common belief. The people that we need to influence are the ordinary Ugandans. And I can tell you, let's take a walk on the streets of Kampala, and you'll see how people react to me. Even saying, oh, you are back. We are very happy you are back. We remember when you were leader of opposition. At that time when I was leader of opposition, I had lots of difficulties from within my party. But I knew that I was doing the right thing, and that time will absolve me. And time has done that. And so I am not going to be moved like grass by wind. I'm a tree. I know where I should be growing, and that's what I will do.
Is this tree aspiring to, probably even talking the leader of the party, to think about you when it comes to appoint another leader of opposition?
I leave that entirely in his hands, because the appointment of a leader of opposition is defined by many, many factors.
But those factors are actually in your favor. Northern Uganda voted so heavily, FDC.
I wouldn't even go by that.
Northern Uganda has produced Professor Ogenga Latigo with impeccable credentials. Northern Uganda, you have been in that chair before. You've served well. If those are some of the things to focus, they put you in the favor. In my view, you are favorable. You are in a commanding lead.
If those are some of the things, and the party in its wisdom, through our leader, thinks that the best person to lead the party in parliament and the opposition in parliament is Latigo, and they asked me to serve, I will accept. But if in their wisdom they think somebody else must do that, I will loyally follow that leader.
If you were to look at Uganda in terms of regional balancing, Kasese did quite well for the FDC. Do you think probably it's time the leader of FDC comes from Kasese?
I can tell you that
against all odds, they did quite a lot.
I can tell you that when we formed FDC in 2005, FDC got the biggest support from Acholi. Not because we were such distinguished leaders, but the situation in our environment that time, allowed people to identify those best placed to take care of their interests as the people in opposition.
But did you buy in the ideology of FDC,
we
or this
did.
was a protest of the against the NRM?
We did. The good thing is that just before we came in this program, there was a documentary on Kasese, and the Obusinga talked of how the ordinary Mukonjo looked to FDC and not NRM, because the NRM leaders did not stand besides them as their own people were being killed. Those are factors that are not national. They are local to Kasese. What the leader of opposition is going to be is not somebody who is going to solve the conflict in Kasese. It's going to be the face
of Uganda,
of the party in parliament, internationally, and is also going to be a vehicle to promote the interest of the party.
Hold on to your point, Professor Ogenga Latigo. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll be asking, with such numbers they have in parliament, what kind of leverage will they get so that they can influence the debate on the floor of that house? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Professor Ogenga Latigo, the newly elected member of parliament for Agago North. Your numbers in parliament, you're very few. In a parliament that is almost coming to 500. By the way, your parliament is almost as big as the parliament of India.
Yeah.
But only that India represents 1.2 billion people.
Yeah. Yeah.
How will you influence debate in that house when especially things are concluded in a caucus and then you just bring here?
It doesn't require numbers to guide the country in the correct path. It is what you say.
The votes there matter. At one point,
one
person was quoted saying that it does not matter even if you sleep in that parliament, so long as you can wake up and vote right. So how do you, so long as you can wake up and vote? I've had such talk.
Just check the statistics and check the trends to know that that position and that approach is harmful to those who think it was to their advantage. Because it is that parliament checking you that will restrain you from the excesses that power normally brings to people, regardless of who you are. It is that parliament, if you listen to, that will guide you that the policy you are trying to implement is not right. And it is that criticism by the opposition, taken in good faith, that allows the country to move on an even keel. And so once you kill it, but you see, wait, Patrick,
really,
Patrick,
members,
let me just finish, because what you see now is not strange to Uganda. The only parliament where there was some semblance of balance was the self-government parliament of Benedicto Kiwanuka. After that, Obote took away most of the DPs. The few voices, including my late father-in-law, Gino Bonyo, Winnie Byanyima, the father-in-law of Dr. Besige, those few, they cautioned the country. And the UPC thought they had arrived and everything was fine until Amin, their own, overthrew them in 2001 and brought the tragedy that we are still paying the price of. Now, this is the same thing. Don't count on numbers. If they are wrong, even if they were 1,000, they would still be wrong. If we are right, even if we were only 2, we would still be right. And that is where we'll stick.
So when is that going to be the time when we see rate is prevailing? What does it help for you to be right and rate does not prevail?
The journey in politics is a journey in the dark. You know, some years ago I coined what I called my law of cumulative error. It's like whatever we do in politics is like measuring sugar in the dark. You never know how many grains will tilt the scale because you can't see it. And let nobody fool himself or herself that we have arrived. You never know what will tilt the scale in Ugandan politics. Just look at the hang around. Look at what has transpired.
So
in
you have a feeling cumulatively their errors are going to tilt the balance.
Just look at what transpired in the last election, when the key instrument of NRM, the army, voted the way they did. When the police voted the way they did.
What do you mean voted the way they did? They are Ugandans who have a right to vote and choose a leader of their choice. It's a democrat. In fact, it should be a victory for democracy your side.
You see, the symptoms are out. If you are a good doctor, you'd advise somebody that you need to go quickly and see a specialist.
You hold a view that if a member of the military and the police does not vote the incumbent, then there's something wrong with that army?
Is there nothing wrong? In fact, it's probably not even something wrong with either that military or the incumbent. There's something grossly wrong with the country. Alarm bells ought to start
in America this year they are going to vote.
Yes.
The Marines will be voting
because
across the divide.
Because theirs,
even if there's an incumbent.
You see, because theirs, you don't peg too many things on the military. Here, we peg everything on the military. Whether they're with you or not with you, defines so many other things.
But you, as somebody who understands politics really, you know that they have a right to choose the leader of their choice. And in fact, if they do that without fear or favor, then that's a plus in the journey for Uganda's democracy. That's simple as that.
Yeah, but...
then why are you reading too much in that?
Okay, I'm not reading too much. I'm just reading what it is.
But isn't that parliament, with you inclusive, more of a caucus than... because really, if 3% of it, 3/4 of it are NRM, so you are escorting what the caucus will,
you know...
Like now the caucus is going to sit and choose a speaker, and you'll come and just accept that.
You know...
That's the reality.
That is, and unfortunately, that is the tragedy of Uganda's democratic journey. That in this election, we reached where we reached. First, in terms of the kind of things that happened during the elections. And for parliament, that you have people parading as candidates, that the Speaker of Parliament must take nomination papers to some electoral official of NRM, and the guy even stands up and talks with such authority. I didn't know our country could sink this low.
But caucuses are there, even in bigger democracies.
Look,
even
Parliament...
even in parliamentary democracies, like in Britain, caucuses are
Patrick, there. Parliament is an independent arm of...
I understand.
Yeah, no, let me explain. Once we do this, the next thing, the NRM electoral body may be the one vetting who should be the judge. Maybe that NRM electoral body may be the one vetting who should be appointed minister. If they cannot do that, what kind of audacity?
Tomorrow you are going to congregate as members of FDC, or the day after tomorrow.
Yeah.
But you're probably going to take some positions on some policy matters.
We will.
It is not different.
No,
it's not any different.
No.
It's more or less an FDC caucus.
Look, if this
and to take a standpoint on some issues.
If that was,
that's exactly what they are doing across the divide.
No. Tanga Udoi is not a member of parliament. He has no business vetting candidates for speakership. Absolutely none. Unfortunately, that is where we have reached as a country.
How does that even bother you, with all respect, when you, as members of the opposition, do not have a candidate running for leader of Speaker of Parliament?
Because that is the problem. The problem is not us. The problem is whether those who have access to power now respect the institutions of this country. And in what they have done, it is the biggest insult anybody
But how do you lose in this case when the two people who are standing for this position are all of them NRM? In fact, they enjoy support from both opposition and NRM. So how do you lose?
How do I
this
lose?
case, how do you
It is
lose?
not me. It is the institution of parliament that loses. That the speaker is dragged through the political mud, and that speaker has to come and preside as an independent arbiter in parliament after being dragged in that political mud.
It would have made sense,
It
Honorable
is-
Latigo,
it is
if you
tragic.
had one of your own running for the same office.
Let me tell
you don't.
For me personally, just to make a point, I may even seriously consider offering myself for the deputy speakership of this parliament.
I have an expose for you, Uganda. Professor Latigo is running for speakership. He's considering to run for
Not speakership, but the deputy speakership. Just to make a point, because just look at what is happening. Look at the range of people who.
This is where things are. So you're considering to run for deputy speaker.
I am being forced to make a point.
There's nothing like force. You have a desire for that office.
No, not at all. Not at all. But
so the people have
but
fought.
just to
The
make
people have forced.
to make a statement on how some of us see the office of speaker, how some of us see the office of deputy speaker of the parliament of Uganda, regardless of which political side I am in. I hold a deep recognition of those two offices. And whatever I do as an individual must reflect my respect for that office. But when you have people who only yesterday were youth members of parliament, now wanting to become speakers.
How do you even, what are your chances, considering that the House is 75% NRM, unless you are a person who has been able to work in both sides? That's when you think you can work, you can have some audacity that you
the chance I have is to try and uphold the dignity of the institution of parliament. There are many people in NRM, I could name them, Adolf Mwesige, who could serve very well as a deputy speaker. There is nothing that would stop Jacob Olanya from returning as deputy speaker. Rather than the dirt that you hear in their contest with the speaker. Rather than the chaos you see in people who want to be elected deputy speakers. Then you ask yourself, what value do each of those hold of our parliament?
I have heard your colleagues in parliament, you know, say negative statements against Olanya for aspiring to be the speaker. You think he's being uncourteous?
No, it's not a negative. Yeah, people probably, you know, that's the trend in our country. Speakership is a position of honor.
Yeah.
You don't fight for it. They happen.
No, he's just vying. There's no point. There's no fighting.
They happen. But if, for example, Olanya desperately wanted to be a speaker, what is 5 years in allowing Rebecca Kadaga to serve 10 years? And he would then have the argument that all the other speakers have...
So you think it's unbecoming for the deputy to challenge the speaker?
No, it just reflects badly on us as a country. It's not even about Olanya. It is about us, the country.
You think he has no conviction?
Where
you think?
Just tell me.
Don't you think he has a conviction that he could add value?
Absolutely, but conviction, self-conviction is not enough. We sacrifice many things. I could be the party president. I could have been a candidate for my party. But I also know that for things to move smoothly, I can still play a subordinate role to further the bigger interest of the country.
So it is resolved, in my view.
Yeah.
Professor Ogenga Latigo is in Team Kadaga.
No, I'm not in any team. I'm just paying.
There are two people.
I'm just
and you think this one should have waited for 5 years?
I'm just pained by.
It is just obvious.
I'm just pained by what
which is
happening.
okay. I don't know why you.
It's not about Team Kadaga. I'm just pained. But if you asked me, when the time comes and there's a choice between Kadaga and Olanya, I'll vote for Kadaga. Not because she's the best, but because She has the face, the best face of that parliament in the world. She's recognized. She has done her part. Internally, she did her part, and she's recognized. And secondly, because I think time is on Olanya's side, I don't understand his impatience. He's not going to die tomorrow. That seat will still be available. And secondly, let Speaker Olanya not deceive himself. That is without blemish. I actually wrote an article castigating them when he threw out Semuju. The rules of parliament allowed him to do that. But then he was asking Semuju to come and apologize. That the law never provided for. And was asking Semuju to come through the main door. That main door, an ordinary member of parliament only accesses parliament through that main door on only 2 occasions. One, when you come to be sworn. The other one is when you come in a gasket and they're coming to honor you. And Olanya, to assert himself, completely disregarded that. On that alone, he failed absolutely, and there's no way I can back him. Secondly, you know how the Public Order Management Bill was passed. When the opposition were out protesting, you bring a bill that ought to be considered by the entire parliament and get it passed.
Okay, I think now we risk into turning this into the anti-Kadago, the anti-Olanya thing, which I don't want to do. But then you have your views, because I put you in this, because we know where you stand now, which is okay.
I'm on the side of parliament, and upholding the respect of parliament.
I think both of them have served this country well, so it's your call as members of parliament to choose the person to steer the next 5 years as speaker.
Yes.
But in your view, do you think even the caucus, does it have the power, or the power of choosing the speaker rests with an individual?
The greatest thing that NRM as a party could do is to do the things that they did in the past. When late Wapakabolo became speaker, it was not a process that went through this open politicking. They identified somebody whom they knew by stature, by age, by constitution, would be the best image of parliament. And they put him there, and he distinguished himself. That party, President Museveni's party, knows which amongst them can serve this country well as speaker. To allow a process like this to degenerate into petty politics, where Tanga Odoi is involved.
The politics requires that somebody, somebody aspires, and somebody is nominated.
You can aspire, but
somebody is nominated. Somebody must show some interest.
But somebody must be responsible.
Somebody must show some interest.
Somebody must be responsible for this country, and that person responsible for this country would then say, "Forget about this nonsense. If you aspire, show your aspiration quietly." But don't make it a public event where going to present your candidature in NRM headquarters is a widely televised thing. Then how can you come and serve impartially? Because that is the speaker of NRM, not of the Parliament of Uganda.
So on the 12th of May, I think, President Museveni will be sworn in for another term, and you will be in Kololo?
No.
If you're invited?
No, I will not be. I will not be. But my absence will not stop President Museveni from being sworn in.
So you are changing a little bit, because the
I am
leader
not
of opposition of 5 years ago would be the kind of man who would be accommodative and all that.
No. By the way, let me tell you, you'd see me in Kololo during Independence Day celebrations, during Labor Day celebrations. And each time they invited me for Heroes Day, I'll write back. And consistently every year, you ask Honorable Wabudea or somebody holding that office if they check the files.
Frank Mwewaze now.
Yes, I would write back and say, thank you very much for the invitation. But this is a highly partisan celebration, which I cannot attend. I even suggested, I said...
But on the 12th of May, it's not a party, party ceremony.
No, it's the party.
It's a national ceremony.
Is NRM installing their candidate as president of Uganda. When we are aggrieved, it would be very sad if your enemy died and you went and mourned in that burial, because they will say you are laughing at death. In fact, the relatives may even beat you up. So fundamentally, I was telling you about Heroes Day. I even told them, why don't you change the title of this day to Remembrance Day? Then I will participate. I will remember from my perspective. They will remember and celebrate from their perspective.
But the other heroes who are not NRM, they are heroes like Kobote.
As long as they are
heroes like Kabalega who are recognized. So you can still go for the sake of those whom you think are heroes that you believe they are.
It is the root,
you go.
The root of that day that counts. And the root of that day was a root steeped in divisive approach to the politics of our country. The same thing that they now think is bad is what they did. They lost an election, which they could not have won anyway, and went to the bush. At least for us, we are aggrieved. We have not gone to the bush. Even they think we should not say we actually won.
The bush, you know, is not an easy thing. You don't have a choice. It's not an easy thing, considering the people you're fighting have mastered the art of using instruments of coercion.
That's okay. There's no permanence in politics, you know.
So how do you see Uganda move on, considering that now you say President Museveni, if he moves around Kampala, probably he won't get the kind of reception he would have gotten 25 years ago. So where are we headed?
You see, just as we have to deal with...
As your own analysis.
Just as we have to deal with the reality that in law, President Museveni is the elected president of Uganda. They also must deal with the reality that even when in law, President Museveni is an elected president, the effect of that election has eroded the goodwill that much of the country had towards him. He has to deal with that reality. If he doesn't, he will pay the price.
But you know, you can feel it if you go to Agago North, people now are doing their business, they are tilling their land, they are happy, and life is moving on. But just a few people who think have something in it, and you are
it's not true.
Angry.
It's not true.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'll open the line so that you two at home can ask Professor Ogenga Latigo a question that you may be having, or comment and add value to our discussion tonight. After all, we're talking about our country. Back, you're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guest tonight is Professor Ogenga Latigo, Member of Parliament representing Agago North. There's an issue of members of Parliament paying taxes off their salary. And you are united, most of them now who are those at Parliament, that you shouldn't be taxed from a consolidated salary. Do you hold that view?
Well, and by the way, one of the reasons you said I seem so much at peace is that I never mix things. The matter of Parliament is the matter of this Parliament. Until I go there, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, but
let me.
You are Ugandan.
Yes. No, let me point
out. It's
an
issue.
Let me point out something that the country must know. As long as in the Constitution, members of Parliament will determine their emoluments, I can assure you they will do those things. There will be anger, but they will still do it. And they will have every legitimacy to do it that the Constitution provides.
Yeah, but that's okay. If they,
because,
but then,
for example,
for purposes of equity, then they don't tax others like their tax.
You see,
so that you spread across. You cannot make a law to exempt a few and make it hard for the rest.
You see, if you were given,
and we're not saying they should all be taxed or not. We're saying let us be treated equally.
Well, we are not equal, unfortunately. A member of parliament is a member of parliament. He has
as far as paying taxes is concerned.
No. He has different sets of responsibility. When I was in parliament, we actually used to get these emoluments based on your actual number of days of attendance of the house. If you didn't attend, you would not get. Because the idea was, if you came to Kampala, you'd have to pay for your accommodation. Mileage, you'd get because you have to travel. Now, if you tax my mileage, and yet the mileage is calculated on how far I am from my constituency is from Kampala, how do I bridge the difference? Okay. Unless
do you think other Ugandans, commissioners, whoever is a salaried public servant, they should also be treated in that way?
I don't know if public servants who go on duty,
those who are getting allowances, because they are paying taxes on their allowances,
on their allowances,
on a consolidated salary. So you think they should also not pay?
If they had the option, would they tax themselves?
So now because they don't have an option, you fix them.
If you don't want the MPs, if you don't want the MPs,
you can fix them because you have
absolutely. You see, the easiest way is not to give me an opportunity to dip my hand in your past and then complain. It doesn't make sense.
This sounds very un-Latigo, if I may use that word. Because this is where this sounds very...
It is very Latigo because I stick by the rules. I stick by the law. The law specifically allows...
that this law should discriminate.
You change that law and let the MPs do that thing, I will be the first guy to oppose it.
Is it not prudent now that they change the law so that it brings equity?
What you are making a judgment of is not the law, it's sentiment. And I'm not sentimental, you know that.
I'm going to open the line so that you two can take on this giant of a man. The leader, former leader of opposition and member of parliament, now will be representing Agago constituency, Agago North constituency. So what do you have to ask Professor Ogenga Latigo? For many years I've been asking the questions, but I know sometimes I may not ask the question that you want to ask. So that's why I'll give you an opportunity to do that. I'll take the first call online. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening. This is the last call.
Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is the last call from Amuru.
From Amuru?
Yes.
You're on air, sir. Go right ahead now.
I'm calling the last call. Yes. Thank you. First of all, I wanted to welcome Honorable Professor Latigo for the 10th Parliament. So my point here, I wanted to clarify what he has said. That is right. What he has been discussing about the Parliament for speakership is very right. Because
you agree with him on his stand for the race of speakership. I think that's what
he said. What I was discussing, the position that the speakership should be something that honors the institution of parliament. It should not be a contest.
Okay, I'll ask my producers to turn up the volume a little bit inside here so that we can also hear the people who are calling. And I'm going to pick another caller online. Hello. Hello.
On the spot.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Mago Asman from Budaka.
From Budaka, you're on air, sir, Asman.
Agago Latigo, you're welcome in NTV studio.
Thank you.
All right. Now, I want to plug something on the tax levied on these MPs allowances. This is in the shift of tax burden to the taxpayers. Take a situation where an MP is supposed to travel using like 5 million. Can we say we can tax 5 million? Can he reach where he's going? It's just indirectly they are levying the tax which they had abolished the second-hand stuff, their products and goods. You remember when they say the bill of Mivumba, sort of. So it's like now they are punishing the members of parliament who ruled it out, so that we, the taxpayers down here, we can still suffer the same consequences, but indirectly taxing these MPs. I don't go on saying that the MPs should be taxed on their allowances. Remember, Mr. Moderator, if you use 5 liters of fuel to reach Budaka, tax the money worth 5 fuel. Can you reach? You cannot reach, of course. What they have to do is to increase the money they are going to give you, and for us down the ground, we are going to pay a lot of tax. So I advise Ugandans, we should be so unique and we should be so understanding. This is an indirect levying of tax, which they should have levied on the second-hand product. They are doing it indirectly because the MPs refused it.
Asmani,
Asmani,
I don't think I get you properly, but maybe Professor Latigo has picked your point with clarity. I did not. Let me take another call on line, and the Professor will respond at once. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from tonight?
I am called Okirore Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
And I'm calling from Makerere.
Makerere, you're on air, Mr. Emmanuel Okirore.
Yes. My only contribution is, with the issues of tax, even in Jesus' times, people who collect tax were
not liked.
We're hated.
Hello?
We're hated, like the man called Zacchaeus.
Yes. So, if it comes to issues of tax, let it be streamlined that allowances, everywhere allowances are not taxed, but with the mainstream earning like salary or a wage, let it be taxed. After all, even when our champion athlete, is he called Kiprotich or Kipsilo?
It is only one. Why, Okirore, how can you not even fail to tell? We just only have only one. We don't even know number 2 and 3.
Yes.
Kiprotich.
Everybody was advocating that let his emolument be taxed. So let the MPs' mainstream earnings be taxed, but the allowances should not be taxed. That means a local common man.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Emmanuel Okirore.
That is the position.
May I suggest that you will, if you can just keep note of those, we're going to talk maybe 2 or 3 more, and then
I will try to remember.
That will be it. Let me take another call on line. Hello. Hello.
Yes, hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening. My name is Kennedy.
Kennedy, you are on air, and please make it precise and concise, sir.
Yes. First of all, I want to recommend the professor for his sense of humor.
You said for his sense, and then there was a blip. I don't know whether it was from my side with his sense of blip.
Yes. So I just want to hint on the issue of the taxing of the taxing within the parliament. In my view, I think I do not side with the professor when he thinks that just because the members of the parliament, they have a privilege to determine the monuments, that they use that opportunity to exempt themselves or to determine anything just because they have a favor, and then they can determine anything in their favor. Bearing in mind that these are representatives of people. Now, my belief is that if there is anything that they are going to discuss, first of all, they must be able to put into perspective the country, what the citizens desire. I think it's wrong that members of the parliament, whom we hold to esteem, use the opportunity to turn the guns on them and I think that they are the most important Ugandan who deserves to be treated in that utmost. My last observation is, I personally think that much as we may not be very concentrative, it is just a ploy by the strategic NRM to divert the country, because as the professor was indicating, you have seen there is overwhelming belief that the president did not win. Now, as a politician, the president could strategically just bring the issue. First of all, test the 10th parliament. Secondly, it will be a strategic move to divert the public so that you can even see the whole civil society, the whole public has shifted the discussion whether the president is a legitimate person to be shown in, to now the discussion whether members of parliament deserve exemption from the tax. I think we need to be able to put these things into perspective.
Thank
For
you.
us, for especially the professor in the opposition, I really feel certain that even the opposition joins in the bandwagon, the civil society that has been advocate of unfair election. I think we need to be very consistent in terms of our struggle, knowing the kind of a president who is very shrewd, he wants things his way. So I really think that we must be very focused enough, especially what this country needs. I want to thank the professor.
Thank you very much, Kennedy. And let me take just two more, and that will be it, so that we can wrap it up. We'll hear what other Ugandans have to say tonight. I have a call online. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
This is Magonga Aman calling from here.
From?
Hello, how are you? I'm calling from here.
From Busia, you're on air. So, okay, do not listen to the echo.
Uganda.
Don't listen to the echo, just continue talking.
Busia, Uganda. Yes.
I'm going to pick another caller, and before I pick, maybe let me also try to say this, that when the phone, when I pick your call, don't turn up the volume on your TV set. That will cause an echo, and then you will not hear the conversation. We shall not hear you well. So turn down the volume after it has gone through, then we'll have a healthy conversation. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name?
My name is Dr. Ekwaro. I'm calling from Apache.
Dr. Okwara.
Ekwaro.
Ekwaro from Apache on air, sir.
Yes, thank you. I would like to suggest one thing. Don't we need to rewrite our constitution to deal with power of the president, power of parliament, because those powers are being abused? Yeah. Secondly, I would like to ask Professor, what is the way forward? How can we get out of this constitutional and political impasse we are in right now? Thank you. Thank
you very much, Dr. Kwara in Pakwachi, in Apache. We're going to take the last call. Hello? Hello? Okay, this one is listening to himself, so I'm going to pick another caller. Hello?
Hello?
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Julius from Wakiso.
Julius in Wakiso, you're on air, sir.
Yes, I'm just saying that...
You are listening to yourself, Julius, or I'm dropping that call?
Kamara.
I'm dropping that call. Okay. Well, the problem is that he's to bring an echo. I really want to hear you, but then you want to listen to yourself again on the TV set and talk to me, and that will not make a conversation go on well. That's the reason why I cut it off. Sorry about that, Julius. Okay.
Yeah, one of the callers was right that the income, which is the core element in the component of a parliamentarian's emolument, which is the salary, ought to be taxed, and it is taxed. We pay tax on that.
On the 2.5 million, something.
Yeah,
like
something. I don't know the figure now, but when I was in
But the consolidated pays about 20 million shillings.
No, the only reason why they call it consolidated is because rather than paying piecemeal according to the number of days, they made it a monthly payment on the assumption that you will do everything that the money is supposed to do.
That's what I mean, yes.
Now,
your take home is 20 million.
You see, the thing about taxation is that the people who pay the tax must demand that their taxes do what they're supposed to do. If you pay your MP to go twice a month to the constituency to brief you, make it impossible for him to eat the money without coming. That is the only way you will manage the MPs. If they are paid to sit in the house and they don't come, they come and sign and go away. Make it impossible for him or her to eat the money without delivering the service. Then you will not complain about your tax.
If I had some people, the debate really is not that they shouldn't pay or pay.
Yeah.
The debate is that when it comes to paying taxes,
yes,
we should see equity cutting across.
It
shouldn't apply for you. The law should not be selective.
No, the law is not selective.
And to treat you so fairly, and some of us so badly.
The essence of equity is not equality. Equity is that appropriate to the responsibility and the duties that are commanded of you. And when you look at it, these MPs are not so irrational to say, we want this. Because even when they go to the Committee of Parliament to defend their budget, they argue as to what the proposals are all about. And that is where you derive equity. Unfortunately, even when you look at our salaries, which look very big, if you went and sat together with the Kenyan MP and you see the kind of figures they get, I mean, you will look like a child.
But it's 3 times bigger, the economy is 3 times bigger than Uganda.
I agree with you. I agree with you. But part of our problem is not just...
And probably they don't have a bigger parliament like we have. They don't have a 500...
So let us deal with the real problem, not the tax.
Which in this term is going to increase almost because more districts are going to be approved.
Everybody wants...
Each will come with a woman MP and a constituency.
Everybody wants a district. Everybody wants a constituency. And when you blow up the figure...
you know, what maybe brings the anger is the feeling that when God forbid, when a distinguished person falls sick, sometimes government can pay for you to go in a specialized hospital in India to work on, to help you. But when one of our own, like Carol, is in Mulago Hospital battling cancer, we just have to go there, do what we can to look for the money to help Carol. Yet she's paying taxes, including all the relatives and herself if she's employed. And yet you, if you fell sick, God forbid, they will pull the taxes we paid to go and get treated.
Let me tell you, when I was leader of opposition, I had a terrible accident.
You did, yeah.
The recommendation was for me to go to South Africa. I didn't go. Government didn't give the money. And I didn't pursue it. So there's one gentleman who made a contribution and said, you know, this thing about taxation is a diversion to take us away from the focus. The focus is that we have a governance problem in this country. And that is where we should never allow our eyes to slide away from. Until we resolve the governance issue in this country, where there's no arbitrariness, there we play by the rules, where there's equity in the eyes of the law and in everything, we'll still have a problem, whether it is taxation by members of parliament or the budget of the president in respect to the State House or president's office, they will be there. They were never there in the 60s. MPs had superior salaries than nearly everybody else.
Okay.
But at that time, the state was working. The individual didn't have power above the state. Now we have a crisis.
Okay. Very lastly, I'm going to ask a question in a way digressing and will be the last question. In this term, President Museveni, according to the Constitution, is not going to run again because he'll be over age come 2021. For you who have been trying to wrestle power from him, at least now you're happy that, well, the Constitution is going to make it okay for you. So Are you as members of opposition looking at the Constitution is going to hand us the victory we've always wanted?
No, it's not the Constitution. Where you see, the people didn't appreciate the fact that the opposition's points of view on the governance of this country was sinking in the minds of Ugandans. That progression showed in this election, where people could stand up and say, we want Dr. Besigye to be our president. That progression, just draw the graph. Whether President Museveni is a candidate in the next election, I don't see him winning. And by the way, this mischief that happened in this election will not happen again. Because each time that you subject people to a pressure, you strengthen them against that pressure. And people are every day being strengthened against impunity in the politics of this country. And otherwise, at the end of it...
Are you worried that the Constitution, somebody could tinker with it?
No, no, I'm not worried at all. I'm actually worried that the excesses of some individuals will bring the country down again. And nobody wants it. We don't want this country to go into chaos. But just like the sun will rise tomorrow morning, if they continue in this path, chaos will be in this country again.
What is your concluding remark on the show tonight?
I do hope that we will all sit back, and particularly we in Parliament, look at what is happening about the election of the Speaker and say, enough is enough. We don't want this thing.
Thank you very much. The newly elected Member of Parliament for Agago North, the Honorable Professor Ogenga Latigo. You've heard him. He says like he knows it, and many people have called him the voice of reason, for a reason, I suppose. It's up to you, Ugandans. I think we have a choice to keep this country together or maybe not to keep it together. But let us choose to keep it together. Good night, and God bless Uganda.